Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Wednesday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing well out there and having yourselves a great start to your day, a great morning out there, and a great work week out there so far. Got you a lot to talk about this morning. As you can tell, there's about a million tabs pulled up, so you know this video is going to be jam-packed with a lot of detailed information and there's just a lot to talk about, guys. We got to talk about the severe weather event for today, which of course won't be as bad as it will tomorrow. And, we got to talk about tomorrow. We got to talk about Friday. We got to talk about the winter weather side of this. There's going to be a lot of rain that falls in between everything. And, I mentioned on the community tab a few hours ago that there has been some changes. And I'll tell you right off the dot, there's been some changes to more colder model solutions for the Northeast for this winter weather event. And of course, there's been some changes with the Storm Prediction Center outlook for tomorrow where we have upgraded to a moderate risk. And not just a moderate risk, guys, but there is a higher risk of all categories of severe weather. I'm not saying there's a high risk, but there's still just that level 4 out of 5. But there is, a chance for a big chance for damaging winds, a big chance for large hail, and then you have a pretty significant chance for tornadoes. So we're going to talk about all that in this video. I don't want to get way ahead of myself in the intro like I tend to do sometimes, but we're going to give you some great information. Of course, we're going to focus in on today first. I'll have timestamps put up in the video. Utilize those, guys. I'm not going to expect you guys to watch a 35 minute video. For you folks that do, I love you guys so much. You guys, that's awesome. And I really appreciate that. But I understand people need to watch what is going to affect their areas. I totally get it, guys. So utilize those timestamps. I'm not going to back up and try to shorten 30 minutes of detailed information and try to make it only 10 to 12 minutes. I'm just not going to do that. I'd rather just go with the flow. And if I try to speed up things, I'm going to not be myself. So the videos will always be long on this channel, guys. They always will. So if you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. It helps get these videos out to more people. And I think people need to understand the dynamics and the detailed information instead of just kind of breezing through things. And sometimes we do that here when it's needed, but I definitely like to get detailed with you guys. And if you folks got anything that I can pray over, as always, please put it in the comments below so I can pray over it and others can do so too. Let's get rocking this morning. Chances are this video is going to come out a little bit later than they normally do in the morning videos. My little girl is sick. I'm staying home with her. It was my turn to stay home. So we'll be home today. I'll be able to answer comments a good bit more and just interact with people more on social media. But definitely asking for prayers for my little girl to feel better. I'm pretty sure she has strep throat, which her older sister did also, but she's doing well. It's going to be okay. So I appreciate the prayers there if possible. But we'll take a look at what's going on. There's a little winter weather event. I mean, I say little, but it's packing a punch up here for the Dakotas and areas of Minnesota. Will bring a swath of accumulating snow. It already has overnight and will continue to do so throughout the day today, but not a big event, but you can see the little swirl up here. But this is our big system, our big upper trough that's digging down. Surface low will pop off on the bottom base of it and then eject across the middle of the country, southern plains into the middle of the country, and then into the Midwest and Ohio Valley, bringing winter weather for the north and the Northeast into Friday, and then severe weather to the south. We'll bring a sector of dangerous dynamics for severe weather. And this is it right here, digging down right into here. Be nice if this will work more often, and it's working this morning, so that's good. So it's good to know. But this is digging down into here. This will dig all the way into here, become negatively tilted, and then as soon as it gets stronger and gets that negative tilt, it will begin to eject that way. I'm not sure why I did that little curve right there, but you guys get what I'm saying. So severe weather down here. Winter weather, this is trending into something more substantial, maybe for Chicago. You might get your biggest winter weather event of the year, but winter weather up here, severe weather down here. So let's close this up for right now. Let's keep moving. We'll look at watches and warnings. You got flood watches in these greens. One thing I've not talked about much, and I think I'll get more into detail tonight, is there's going to be several inches of rain that falls in areas of Arkansas, Tennessee, northern Mississippi, areas of Missouri, eastern Oklahoma. And you guys, this area has kind of been the epicenter of where these storms have tracked. So, rain falling on top of areas that's already seen a lot of rain. This is definitely promoting flash flooding issues. We got flood watches up there right now. Winter storm warnings up for the Dakotas and areas of Minnesota. Winter weather advisories for other areas. And then a winter storm watch. This is the beginning stages showing up of our winter storm that's going to crank up for areas of the plains, into the Midwest, into the Great Lakes region, and then into the Northeast. So let's talk about what could potentially happen today. Let's go down here, and this is all over the place. Y'all bear with me. I try to zoom in on these maps for you guys to just get, well, more zoomed in and closer, but this is for today. Now, I want to let you know right off the dot. A lot of times I'll show folks this, and it'll turn around and update within 1 or 2 hours of me dropping this video. So there might be an enhanced risk that gets dropped here in the next update. If it is, it'll probably be somewhere into here, where they might increase the tornado threat to maybe a 10% risk. If they do increase it to that 10% risk, then it probably will warrant an enhanced risk level 3 out of 5. But as I'm making this video as of 7:22 a.m. Eastern time, you have a huge slight risk that extends just east of Dallas all the way to just south of Nashville. This includes big cities like Memphis, Little Rock. I wouldn't say they're huge cities, but you get what I'm saying. Higher populated areas. All of northern Mississippi, all of southwest Tennessee, the entire southern half, including Little Rock of Arkansas, and a small section of northeast Texas. Do not let this event today, I guess you would call it the appetizer of the main entree tomorrow. Do not let this event catch you guys off guard today. Large hail is going to be a big deal, and there will be a risk of tornadoes. And we'll look at this really quick. We'll have to go back up here. Tornado risk today. Right now, they're keeping it at just a 5% risk. I think that's I think that makes sense to me personally from what I've been seeing. But it's a pretty large 5% risk to see a tornado within 25 miles at any given point in this brown area. 2% in the green surrounding it, but this does include Little Rock, Memphis, all the way up into southern to southwest areas of Tennessee, areas of northern Alabama, and the eastern sections of this will be more so later this evening into the overnight hours, where I think areas of Tennessee, northern Alabama, Mississippi, even into the southern Appalachian Mountains of Tennessee and North Carolina, I think that these storms could maintain strength and cause a ruckus overnight into the wee hours of the morning. So damaging winds will be a threat today, a 15% risk of damaging winds within 25 miles in any given location. That's 50 knots or higher, around 55 to 60 miles per hour. Hail threat today will be elevated with any kind of favored supercells that do form, and I do think they will, especially in Arkansas. But with such, you got the storm fuel building, the CAPE. CAPE values will reach well over 1,000 joules per kilogram in this area. The dew points, that moist sector, is already surging into the area. I mean, the stage is already set for tomorrow. It's beginning to become set, especially as we get into this afternoon. So you got all the dynamics that support a big-time hail threat today. I'm going to say big-time, but an elevated hail threat. You have a 15% risk to see hail pushing 1 inch or diameter. I love when it does that. 1 inch or diameter or larger. And then you see this black outlined area right in here. We call that a hatched risk. That is a 10% risk, not added to the 15% risk. Just it's on its own, 10% risk to see significant hail, which is 2 inch in diameter or larger. So you're going to see some videos and some pictures of some hail today. Let me know. Tag me in some pictures on Twitter or Facebook. I'm much more active on Twitter. But I know more people have Facebook over Twitter. There's going to be a flooding risk today, especially as we're getting, I think, into later this evening into Nashville, where these storms, with kind of a zonal flow, these storms will be moving more so west to east. So they'll be going over some of the same areas in Arkansas and northern Alabama, Mississippi, even North Georgia, and then in most of the state of Tennessee. There's a slight risk, which is at least a 15% risk to see flash flood guidance being met in this yellow area. Even bigger flood risks tomorrow. We'll talk about that a little bit later tonight. But we'll see the evolution of these storms today, and we'll work from west to east. But we'll look at the latest HRRR model. They will get fired up as early as probably 2 p.m. Central Time. Already some big supercells kind of developing right here in northern to northeast Texas. These will move in certain very small sections of southeast Oklahoma, and then they will start to move into Arkansas as early as 4 p.m. And I mean, look, if you see this like white area right here, that is intense thunderstorms. The white, pinkish, purple area you see right here on your own video. that tells me that these are going to be supercellular in nature. Now, this looks like kind of a semi-supercell mode, semi-discrete is what I'm trying to say, but it still looks like kind of a cluster of storms, if you will. But on the southern extent of this is where you will have that tornado threat. You get any kind of hook signature rotation with these thunderstorms, it's going to be on the southern boundary of these storms that develop. These will continue. They're really clustered up, but I mean, if you look right here, you see that kidney bean look where these hook, you can see these little hooks right into here. So tornado threat, I mean, it's possible as far north as northeast Arkansas. Do not let your guard down here. And, this is a big cluster of thunderstorms right around dinner time tonight in Arkansas, moving over Little Rock, 5, 6, 7 p.m. There could be some thunderstorm activity also in northern Louisiana. Don't let your guard down there just because you don't see any storms. But these really begin to move into western Mississippi, northern and northwest Mississippi and western Tennessee as we're getting into around the 6, 7, 8 p.m. time frame. And these could produce a quick tornado, and definitely large hail. And especially if any cells can get kind of by itself and take advantage of those ingredients that are already there today ahead of the main event tomorrow. But I really think as we're getting into more so the late evening, overnight hours, these will begin to cluster up and become more of a damaging wind threat. There'll be a damaging wind threat already this afternoon, but I think the main threat will become more damaging wind. But don't get me wrong, you're going to have a tornado threat later into the evening, all the way up through the wee hours of the morning with these storms. I mean, this is a pretty big cluster of storms dropping heavy rain, damaging winds. And I'll stop it right here and we'll go on and switch it to my folks. Well, first off, let's talk about this really quick. This is basically the updraft velocity. This tells us in general the area that these storms have the best chance to rotate. And if you look, the cluster of storms is really dominating central Arkansas. But if you look on the southern extent of this, shows some rotating updrafts right into here, basically from far northeast Texas, southern and south, kind of south central areas of Arkansas, into, there's an elevated area here in northern Mississippi and then western Tennessee. So watch out in this corridor right into here of tornadic development, right where you have that 15% risk. And there's going to be a hail threat with this too, guys. So be aware of that. We keep moving a little bit further, and let's talk about the storm evolution tonight for areas like Tennessee and Kentucky. I mean, as early as, I would say, 5, 6 p.m., storms will quickly erupt, kind of on the borderline of Indiana and Kentucky, even into southern Ohio, and these could produce large hail. They could produce a quick tornado. I think that definitely will be further south, but these storms up here in northern Kentucky that will quickly develop later this afternoon into this evening could pack a punch. We're getting into 9, 10 p.m. Storms start to really hit Nashville pretty good around, I would say, anywhere from 10 p.m. to midnight tonight. Heavy rain, a lot of heavy rain with this. These continue. And like I said, as you're getting into just after midnight, this really begins to produce a lot of heavy rain for eastern Tennessee. I mean, it's still raining like crazy in central Tennessee. More of a steady rain up here in Kentucky. And just if you love a rainy night where you got some low, long rumbles of thunder in Tennessee, southern Appalachian Mountains, North Georgia, you might, be woken up by some lightning and thunder. It's definitely possible. These storms will be moving into these areas. Certainly not as severe potential in these areas, but heavy rain and maybe some thunder for sure. And, we'll move a little bit further south with this. And like I said, don't let your guard down. I mean, these are some nasty storms moving into areas of northern Alabama as you're getting into that 9, 10 p.m. time frame tonight. A lot of heavy rain, damaging winds, possible a quick tornado. And when I want you to look right here, I'll stop this. What is this? This is around 11 p.m. midnight tonight. You see this southern boundary right here? So this is all mainly just rain. Maybe some, stronger storms mix in. But if I get rid of that, if you look right here, there's a ton of low-level moisture right in here. There's a little bit of a zonal flow creating a little bit of a low-level jet, creating some spin to the atmosphere, some favorable wind profiles. But if you see how the southern extent of these storms kind of have some room to navigate, room to breathe, I would not discount a tornado threat lasting until later this evening for areas of Mississippi and even Alabama. Okay, and if you go back and let me get rid of this really quick. You go back and look at the tornado threat for today and tonight. It extends all the way into northern Mississippi and northern Alabama. Okay, so that's what makes me think that this will last all the way through that time frame. And we continue to go. And I mean, these storms are rocking and rolling all through the wee hours of the morning. We're at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning tomorrow morning. And I mean, you might get some gusty storms that might be moving through even as far south as Birmingham. If you wake up at 5, 6 a.m., certainly possible. Atlanta, too. Okay, so rainfall from this. I mean, you could get, over the next 24 hours from the blend of all models, a few inches of rain here in northern Alabama, northern Mississippi, where the heavier cells, the stronger cells will be, stronger cells producing more heavy rain. And basically the entire southern half of Tennessee, which is weird to say because it's a very long state from west to east, east to west, could get a half inch to an inch and a half of rain. And then I really think areas of like eastern Arkansas is favored to probably get a half inch to an inch and a half, maybe 2 inches of rain. And I think this is a solid soaker for Kentucky, just not as much, maybe just a quarter to 3/4 of an inch of rain. And this will eventually, we'll look at the rest of the southeast, and we'll start this around 3 a.m. Eastern time. These showers and storms will be making their way into the upstate of South Carolina, western North Carolina, as early as midnight tonight. So this will wash some of that pollen away. Not everybody's going to get it, but as we're waking up tomorrow morning, I think, there will be a very weak line of thunderstorms moving through the upstate of South Carolina, maybe remaining intact, and could wash away some of that pollen. But I think the bigger day for us in the southeast is going to come probably Friday. But northeast today, a little system will fly through, will create some, I would say, higher terrain snow for the interior New York State around this afternoon. You could have a round of precipitation that moves through, might drop a quick inch or two of snow in certain areas and higher elevations, but this will move through. Even some snow again. It seems like y'all have had some bigger events and some smaller events. And, certainly, again, it's possible in the hills of Western Mass to see some flakes flying around this evening. Even for Vermont, New Hampshire, certainly likely. And then some warmer air moves through. And then as you're getting into Thursday morning, a stronger system moves in. But this isn't the system for Friday and the Saturday. But this will be all rain for southern New England, but maybe more so snow as you get a little bit further north in New Hampshire, Vermont, and Maine. But we'll talk a little bit about this maybe tomorrow morning. This isn't a big deal. This will produce just a quick round of some heavy rain and maybe some moderate snow to the north. North central U.S., it's snowing up here pretty good. A pretty stout little low pressure doing its thing up here. Snow is going to continue to move through northern and north central sections of Minnesota throughout the morning hours. This will eventually diminish later this afternoon. Maybe a quick round of snow for Minneapolis. Snow, kind of a snowy afternoon for northern Wisconsin, UP and Michigan, but certainly not a blockbuster snowstorm by any means, guys. But certainly some snow flying around into the evening up here. And, by the time you're waking up Thursday morning, it'll be gone. But snowfall between now and the next 24 hours, 3, 4, 5 inches of snow, basically in central to north central areas of Minnesota. Pretty tight corridor, but pretty broad from north to south. You go into the upper Midwest from my folks up here in the Great Lakes region. Just now in the next 24 hours, if you're, we'll go on and extend this out, but, there's not much more to add. But, between now and I would say about midday Thursday, a couple inches of snow in northern Wisconsin. Many, just snow on top of snow. There's still snow on the ground up here. First day of March, guys. And one thing I wanted to mention right at the beginning of the video, and I'll mention it again at the end for folks that, are continuing to tune in other tabs. I don't think there's no signs of winter ending up here into the north. In fact, there's a big time pattern change coming, and I'm going to talk about that when we can get past all this crazy weather we're about to experience over the next, 48 to 60 hours. But there is a massive pattern change coming, and maybe even areas kind of far south could get into some wintry mischief. But we'll talk about that when we need to. But the western UP and Michigan, a couple inches of snow over the next, I would say, 24 to 36 hours, but not a big deal. Nothing you guys can't handle up here. Here we go. Big Daddy event tomorrow. A moderate risk is now up. This includes areas just east of Dallas. This does include Shreveport It extends all the way to just south of Little Rock, so all the small towns and communities right here in southwest Arkansas, northwest Louisiana, and northeast Texas, and far southeast Oklahoma at moderate risk. But, don't focus so much on the moderate risk area. There's a huge enhanced risk area too that stretches all the way from Waco, Texas, all the way to Memphis, Tennessee, almost all the way to the Mississippi, almost pretty much all the way to about Meridian, Mississippi, which is right into this area, right into here. Okay, huge risk area. And the thing that worries me about this, guys, is, sure, let's look at the tornado threat. The first thing to look at, probably the thing that most people are interested in. There is immediately a 15% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in a given location in this moderate risk. There's a huge 10% risk surrounding this from Memphis, like I said, to all the way through Dallas, Texas. There is also a hatched risk surrounding all these areas. Remember, the hatch risk is a 10% risk always, but that's not added on to the already risk area. So, for example, you don't say, okay, there's a 15% risk of a tornado. You add another 10% risk to that. Now there's a 25% risk. No, it's its own thing. So, the 10% risk of a stronger tornado is up in the black dashed area, which basically includes the 10% and 15% risk area. So when it says stronger tornado, that's an EF2 or higher. So that's when you start to get catastrophic damage from tornadoes, especially when you get to the EF3 and higher. But huge risk area today. Wind threat, guys. Big wind bag with this. It's the same risk as we saw Sunday night for Oklahoma. Regardless of whatever forms ahead of this initial line of storms, okay, you are going to have damaging winds, a damaging line of storms that's going to have damaging winds with it. And you have a 45% risk of damaging winds, almost a 50-50 shot to see damaging winds within 25 miles on any given point from just east of Dallas all the way to just south of Little Rock, extending all the way into Shreveport, this entire purple area. Okay, this is a big deal. It really is. I mean, it's very out there on your screen right here. And you also have a 10% risk to see significant winds pushing 65 knots or higher. That's hurricane force winds, guys. So a nasty line of storms is going to quickly get going here in north central Texas. Probably, as early afternoon tomorrow, and then sweep through this entire area. And it'll sweep all the way to the Carolinas, eventually into Friday. There is a big hail threat tomorrow also. There is a 30% risk to see hail, and 1 inch or diameter or larger. There's also a 10% risk to see even larger hail, and 2 inch of diameter or larger, even outside this 30% risk, especially in the initial storm mode that gets going. And any supercells that get into their own and are discrete, semi-discrete, the chances are there for very large hail. You got all the ingredients here. Of course, you always have a fail mode. Fail mode meaning good, because fail mode would mean in the weather world that this doesn't materialize as bad as it could. There's always going to be a fail mode. The fail mode kind of happened on that event that happened 2 weeks ago, kind of in Mississippi, the one that I chased. Nothing really materialized. It wasn't a super high risk day, but for the most part, it didn't really materialize as bad as it could. But right now, this is what you got, okay? So let's talk about it. And, we're not going to get as deep into the ingredients as we did in last night's video. We'll do that again tonight, but we're still going to shoot you some good information here. And what's going to happen is, starting off Thursday morning, tomorrow morning, already storm development here in central Texas. But this really gets going. And I mean, already at about 11 a.m., you have a dominant supercell firing up here well kind of southwest, the Dallas-Fort Worth area right out here. And you're kind of close to Weatherford, Texas, if you will. And this kind of diminishes, and then quickly you start to get some action firing up in what will be a pretty massive moist sector, probably into here. And extended, of course, all the way back to, the east. And anything that can get going in this area right into here, is going to have maxed out dynamics to really, really, really get going here. So we start to see that. And moving forward here, you already got a very worrisome supercell right here in southern Arkansas, one right here in northeast Texas, moving into southeast Oklahoma. We don't know exactly where these storms are going to be. I got a couple people, not just on YouTube, but a couple people also on social media to say, hey, is there going to be a tornado for Billy Bob Town, Mississippi? Man, if I could tell you exactly where a tornado was going to be, first of all, I'd probably be a millionaire because I mean, obviously you could read the future, and I don't think anybody can really do that except God Himself. But and then two, we could save a whole lot of lives, which is more important than the money, obviously. So I don't know that. There's a lot of people that don't even know the difference between a tornado watch and a warning. You certainly need to know that. Maybe we'll go into that one of these days. But hopefully people who are viewing actually know that. But we're getting into about the middle of the afternoon at this point, Central Time. Nasty storms erupting here in southern Arkansas. You got more just widespread rain in northern Arkansas. It'll be a totally different beast from northern Arkansas to southern Arkansas. Southern Arkansas will be a dangerous territory for severe weather, but you got nasty storms developing. You got a deepening low pressure back here, and then you got dynamics that are beginning to get really on the high end. And when we're getting into around dinner time, 7, 8 p.m. at this point, Central Time, this is when that low pressure really pops off here, and here it is. And this is when the damaging wind threat really gets elevated. I mean, look, at this point, I'll stop it right here. You have a nasty line of storms moving through eastern Texas, and at the same time, it's snowing just south of Amarillo. It really shows you. Remember, I tell you, with these negatively tilted systems, the dynamics are absolutely maxed out, meaning you can have snow pretty close by and severe weather pretty close by on the other side of the low. Which I did my hands in the wrong direction there. But anyways, heavy rain at this point, very heavy rain falling in northern Arkansas, areas of Oklahoma. And, the latest HRRR model, which we can only go out one more hour, has a developing line of storms. But really, this is still not really an intact line of storms yet. I would argue that this is still a semi-discrete mode. You got probably thunder snow falling in areas of western Oklahoma. I would not be surprised in the middle of the night, Thursday night, as the cold air really gets cranked up. Cold enough air could have, some accumulating snow up here in Kansas. We'll talk about this kind of stuff here in a second. But that's the latest HRRR model. Another one will come out in about 2 hours. The latest NAM, I think the NAM shows the damaging, the massive line of storms very well. Low pressure pops off here. I can tell you the NAM, and the NAM does this a lot. The NAM doesn't have a whole lot of warm sector supercells. Hopefully it's right. But I can tell you that there's going to be warm sector supercells, meaning this is the warm sector. Anything that pops off ahead of this main line of storms developing is going to probably have a elevated chance to produce a tornado. Anything in this area right into here. But this really, I think the NAM shows the line of storms developing well, just south of the low pressure. This develops, sweeps through, slams the Dallas-Fort Worth area around dinner time tomorrow night. This is sweeping through all of eastern Texas. I mean, even bad in southeastern sections of Oklahoma. And then this begins to blast through Shreveport closer to midnight, knock on the door of Little Rock just after midnight. And this line of storms is going to produce probably 70 to 80 mile per hour winds embedded in this line of storms. And you're going to have also embedded spin-ups. And look at this little corridor of snow developing back here in north. I don't want to talk about the snow yet, but you continue to keep this moving. I mean, this starts to move into Mississippi, give or take some hours, guys, probably just after midnight tomorrow night. This blast through Memphis in the wee hours of the morning, Friday morning. I mean, look at this. You have an erupting line of storms moving through in the middle of the night, the wee hours of the morning, with heavy snow up here in northern Missouri, Kansas. And I mean, it's showing snow in Oklahoma City, in Tulsa. Very interesting solution here. And, this line of storms is going to remain intact all the way through Friday morning. You're going to have a nasty line of storms sweeping through as far north as western Kentucky, but it'll be the most intense down here in western Tennessee, Alabama, and Mississippi. This is a pretty stout line of storms. So I would argue that the tornado threat from maybe areas of Mississippi into western Alabama won't be as high with this event just because the energy moves through overnight, but there's still going to be a threat. Man, this is some extremely heavy snow Friday morning falling in northern areas of Missouri and eastern Kansas. Jeez, that is, man, it's crazy. I'm just seeing that, just insane snow. But we'll zoom in a little bit closer for you folks in Arkansas off the HRRR model. And like I said, you stop it here, 3 p.m. You see these cells right in here. These could produce a tornado. Northeast Texas, southwest Arkansas. But, we don't know exactly where these cells are going to form. Look at this cell around 4 or 5 p.m. just south of Little Rock. That, has that look to it. And, this is all just heavy rain. But south of this boundary, where you have an open sector of just the atmosphere is prime for severe weather. This is a living and breathing supercell taking advantage of the atmospheric players on the field out here. And you keep this going, another one in the same area a couple hours later. And then here comes the nasty line of storms developing to your west. Okay. Dangerous setup. And, I'll tell you, I'll show you one ingredient right here, which is the wind profile. As we're getting into midday Thursday, that low-level jet, as we're getting into the afternoon hours, begins to rip up over 30 to 40, 45 knots right over eastern Texas, Louisiana, and southern Arkansas. But, as we're getting into later into the evening, we're getting into about 7, 8 p.m., 9 p.m., this low-level jet right in this area as this line of storms begins to develop, probably right into here. It has all this prolific wind energy, high-end wind energy to work with right here. Okay, so low-level jets really ramping up. We'll go all the way to the final frame, which takes us out to the middle of the night, Thursday night. And, you have a 60 to 70 knot low-level jet ramping up over northern Louisiana, southern and central Arkansas, start to move into the Memphis. This is fueling a damaging wind threat and a tornado threat lasting into the overnight hours tomorrow night. Okay. Severe weather threat for the southeast. They have not upgraded this to an enhanced risk anywhere for day 2, which is Friday, yet. I'm sorry, this is day 3 for Friday. This could change in the next couple updates. It certainly could, but this is a huge slight risk, and I can almost tell you that I'm not going to guarantee it, but I can tell you there's probably going to be an enhanced risk, I would say, issued somewhere into this area, maybe a little bit further south. And yes, Atlanta, you're right in the bullseye of that. That's where I'm thinking right now, give or take 30, 40 miles one way or the other. I don't think the enhanced risk is going to extend into the mountains right in here. Obviously, if you go a little bit further south, you lose forcing because the low pressure is way up here. It's an ugly L, ugly circle too. But once this starts to creep further north and northeast, you begin to lose forcing down here for thunderstorms, which basically you lose just basically the availability to fire up thunderstorms. But still, somebody's going to get upgraded to at minimum an enhanced risk for Friday. Just trying to figure out where. And the only thing we can look at is the NAM. And the NAM shows it well. This line of storms sweeping through. We'll start off around Friday morning around 6 a.m. Central Time out here. Line is moving through Tennessee. And this is, blasting through Birmingham. And it only goes out to 60 hours. Nasty line of storms moving through central and eastern Kentucky. But it only goes out 60 hours, and you're starting to get into the daytime heating. And I would anticipate that if you were to keep this run going, you would probably get cells that begin to fire up right into here. And if we do, these eventually will travel northeast into South Carolina. Do we get any kind of individual cells that fire up? I think we do. It's just how widespread and how dangerous are they going to be? We're not quite sure. But this only goes out to literally midday around lunchtime Friday. But I can tell you that the ingredients are going to be there. We already know the moisture is going to be there. But I can tell you there's going to be a high-end favorable wind profile. Look at this low-level jet Friday morning moving through Tennessee, Alabama, pushing 70 to 75 knots, screaming out the South in general. And then this moves into Atlanta, where winds will really increase as you're waking up and getting a few hours into your Friday morning for Atlanta, Columbus, Macon, with an incredible high wind speeds, just 5,000-6,000 feet above your head. You'll notice the winds will really increase in South Carolina about midday, Carolinas, everybody, Tennessee, eastern Tennessee, and then the low-level jet will ramp up over this region. And this only goes out, like I said, to midday, but you have an impressive 65, 70 knot low-level jet riding through Georgia, getting into South Carolina. This is going to aid in a favorable wind profile for severe weather. So We already know the dew points are going to be there. There's going to be a skinny corridor of Cape that's going to build ahead of this line. And it's just the timing. Winter weather fans, and we're going to see if our 06Z Euro is running, and I think it is. I think we're good. Latest European. So I mentioned at the beginning of the video, there's been some changes with the winter storm side of this, and I'll talk about what I mean here. Latest European. This has ticked south for everybody. So first off, I want to start. The short range model guidance is liking snow where it's showing rain on the European for Oklahoma. We'll go into these short range model guidance when we get a little bit closer. But deep low pressure, 987 millibar low pressure moving out of eastern Oklahoma into Arkansas. This where you see green back here, green right here, this could be snow. But it really starts to show up as we're getting into Friday about early to mid morning. This quickly flips to snow where you got more cold air and cold air aloft working in behind this system. Heavy snow falling, and I would say this would be falling also in Tulsa right back here. But northwest Arkansas, northeast Oklahoma, it's snowing like crazy in Kansas City. Snowing in basically the entire western half of Missouri. But look at this. I'm thinking that this is going to be your storm for Chicago. I'm not talking about 1.5 feet of snow, a foot of snow, but this is going to bring a swath of probably your highest accumulating snow of the winter, and it's going to happen on March 3rd. But this is bringing snow now. It's snowing like crazy, in Columbia, Missouri, not South Carolina. It's snowing in basically the entire northern half of Illinois, including Chicago. It's now showing snow in northern Indiana. I really think this could be a big event for southern Michigan. But this is now heavy snow. Heavy snow. Where you see these dark blues, this is for Friday afternoon around 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Heavy snow. Now getting very close to switching to snow in St. Louis, but just north of St. Louis is snowing like crazy. Western to northern Illinois, snowing like crazy. This is moving, and I think you will flip the rain to maybe Detroit, but just north of Detroit. And this could shift south. Well, with the last couple storms, we've actually managed to shift south. It's something we haven't been able to do all winter. But this is now showing something substantial from Chicago, maybe up to Milwaukee and everybody in between. Chicago, there's a chance that you could be in the corridor of the heaviest snow now. But, this is for Friday evening, snowstorm for you folks for Chicago. Early March snowstorm. I guess if for you winter weather fans, if we're going to get it, we'll take it how we can get it, even if it comes the third day of March. But this is snowing pretty good in central to southern Michigan. Then this heads on out. And then that's all she wrote. The GFS with this, latest GFS from this morning, same kind of deal. It doesn't show much snow back here, but I'm telling you guys, there could be snow falling where it shows green in like areas like Kansas City. But look at this, how it switches the snow. The GFS is even further south. Actually keeps the heaviest snow south of Chicago, so we got to watch out for that. Rain switches the snow even as far south as St. Louis. You see these pockets of blue. This could be snow falling in central Missouri. Heavy snow falling in northern Indiana, southern Michigan, even northwest areas of Ohio is getting into some of that winter weather fun with the low pressure. Just to the south, it might stay snow based off the GFS for northwest Ohio, but this would be a substantial winter storm for the northern half of Indiana. Southern Michigan, still snowing in Chicago, points south, and this continues to fall for Michigan. This would bring more snow into Detroit compared to the Euro. But the European ensemble, let's see if the 06Z is out. It is not, so we can only look at the OOZ, but it's going for about 6 to 7 inches of snow in Chicago. A little bit higher up in maybe just north of Chicago, maybe pushing about 7 to 8 inches in Milwaukee, but, shows northern Illinois. You folks seeing a pretty quick, in general, it's a pretty quick hitting solid snowstorm of around 6, 8, 9 inches of snow. And then the northern half, central Missouri, could get into some heavy snow. And I know you're not seeing much down here in the south central U.S., but I could tell you someone's going to get a few inches of snow in the panhandle of Texas and areas of western Oklahoma. Someone's going to get some more snow further west into Kansas than what these models are showing. Just a gut feeling. Sometimes you got to go off them gut feelings instead of what just the models show. But the European ensemble, what does it show? Hot off the press here. Not as big of an event, but still shows your biggest snowstorm of the winter for Chicago, going for 5 inches, but it shows it further south. And like I said, I know it doesn't show anything for Oklahoma, but don't completely buy that. I mean, it shows extremely heavy snow for the NAM falling in these regions down here where the GFS ensemble shows absolutely no snow. But, you know, it brings snow further south into Ohio, brings Cleveland a pretty solid snowfall mean of a few inches. Detroit hits you guys with the epicenter and gets you guys a half a foot of snow. So there's still some disagreements. And I would argue that there's more disagreements now than there was yesterday evening. But we got to see what's going to happen. Now, for my folks up here in the Northeast, man, for you winter weather fans, this has trended better. This could be now a bigger event than what we saw a couple days ago. Latest European brings this in. Still, latest European, really, it's not a substantial shift yet where it's given areas like New York City a hefty winter storm. But for southern New England, man, it could be big. Now, I'll start this off. This is around Friday evening. Freezing rain event ongoing in areas of Pennsylvania. Trying to nail down who's going to see that. I would say it's probably central to west central areas of Pennsylvania. This is all rain for Pittsburgh. I got somebody who asked me on Facebook a lot about Pittsburgh, and man, I just ain't got no good news for you, and including you in West Virginia. This area down here, I'll go on and circle it because I feel bad for you guys. I really do, and that's not me being sarcastic either. But this area right here has been absolutely gypped with winter weather this year. Just gypped. Nothing compared to what you typically see per average snowfall in any given winter. And hopefully you'll get, trust me, the pattern coming up, I'm telling you, for mid-March, supports a late season big winter storm for someone in the east. Just going to leave it at that. But you keep this going. Going to have to re-click this up here. You keep this going up here. And, yeah, winter storm moving into New York State. It's still winter weather in northern Pennsylvania. But this, you know, heavy snow moving into all southern New England overnight Friday nights. And this stays all winter weather for Boston and for a good chunk of southern New England, except the coastal regions, maybe of Connecticut and Rhode Island. And then, you know, like Long Island, I think would be all rain. But this would be a pretty big event based off the latest Euro. Now, let's look at the GFS, and I'm going to look at tropical tidbits. I'm doing this for a reason, guys. There has been some substantial colder trends on the GFS, but I want to just go on and take it to right here, okay? I'm going to go, let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Let's go 9. I'm sorry, I believe this is 8. I lost count. This is 8 GFS runs back. So this is 2 days worth of trends, I believe. Yes, 2 days worth of trends from the GFS. So this is where it had it 2 days ago. Back on the morning of the 27th, back on 2 days ago. This is where it had all the winter weather. It had this wintry mess, and this is for about 1 a.m. Saturday morning, this coming Saturday morning. It had all this winter weather shunted pretty far north. These are the latest trends, okay? Watch how all the frozen precipitation ticks south. Watch. Just look how it's ticking south. You see that? So, now you have more of a substantial winter weather event further south for southern New England. This is getting awfully close to New York City. Boston, this now shows as an all-snow event based off the GFS. Okay, and this would be a substantial snow event also for northern Connecticut. Like I said, I'm not talking about like a nor'eastern where you're going to get a foot and a half of snow, but areas could see a foot. And this continues. So what about the snow totals? The latest Europeans still not buying a huge event for these southern sections, but going for around 5 inches of snow for Boston. But once you start to get into these hilly regions of Massachusetts, 6 to 8 inches. A little bit of a signal building into New York City, but not very high. In the interior Northeast, someone's going to see, probably 12 to 18 inches of snow. Now, the GFS ensemble, okay, substantial shift south. I mean, now you got like a signal of 9 to 10 inches in Binghamton, northern Pennsylvania, 8 to 10 inches of snow. You got now a 2 to 3 inch mean as far south as New York City. You got a 9 to 10 inch snowfall mean in Boston. And yeah, much more substantial push south. This wouldn't be as big of an event for northern sections of Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine, but a bigger event for areas of kind of, I guess you would say, the northern areas of in the more so the I-95 corridor of the Northeast. So big changes with this. We'll see if it ticks back north. It could. But that's all I got, guys. I hope this finds you well, helps you guys out. God bless all y'all. Have yourselves a great day, and I'll be with you guys later this evening.